The cold was the first betrayal. Not the clean chill of the walk-in at the butcher shop where I'd hauled sides of beef for 20 years. This was the deep cold. The kind that settles into the marrow and whispers that summer is a lie you told yourself. It seeped through the thin paper sheet, through the cheap polyester suit they'd stuffed me into, and anchored me to the stainless steel slab. My eyes wouldn't open, glued shut, frozen. Panic tried to bubble, a frantic fish in a frozen pond, but the cold smothered it. Everything felt muffled, distant, except the smell. Antiseptic, yes, the sharp tang of industrial cleaner. But underneath, coiling like a venomous serpent, the sweet sour reek of spoiled meat. My meat. A voice cut through the fog, tinny and bored. Tag 705, male, late 50s, probable myocardial infarction. No next of kin located. Prepare for county crematorium tomorrow. A pen scratched on a clipboard. A heavy door sighed shut. Silence. Thick. Absolute. And the cold. And the smell. Then the click. Inside my head. Or where my head used to be. A switch thrown in the dark. Suddenly, I could feel the paper sheet. Not as texture, but as a pressure. Against skin gone numb and alien. I could feel the rigid steel beneath me. Not as cold, but as an absence of warmth. And the hunger. God, the hunger. It wasn't stomach gnawing. It was a black hole opening where my sense of self used to be. A vacuum screaming to be filled. Not with steak, charred rare. Not with mother's thick beef stew. With warmth. With the pulse thrum of living things. The scent of blood beneath skin. The panic hit then, a jagged shard of pure terror, sharp enough to pierce the muffling ice. Move, move. My right arm jerked, a spasm violent and uncoordinated. Fingers scraped against the steel. The sound was horrifying. Dry sticks dragged over metal. I felt the friction, a dull scrape against nerves that felt dead and alive all at once. Move the hand. Bend the elbow. Commands fired down frozen wires, met with grinding resistance. Muscles felt like old leather left out in the rain, stiff, cracking. Another jerk. My arm flopped off the slab, dangling. Fingertips brushed the cold tile floor. Progress? Or just gravity winning? The hunger roared, a silent hurricane in the hollowed-out cavity of my being. It focused my shattered will. Sit up. Agony, not pain exactly. A profound tearing sensation, as if every tendon, every ligament had rusted solid and was now being wrenched apart. My spine grated. Vertebrae popped like muffled gunshots. Slowly, impossibly. My torso levered upward. The paper sheet slid off, pooling at my waist. My eyes, they opened. Not a blink. A slow, sticky unsticking. The fluorescent lights overhead weren't bright. They were searing. Harsh white knives stabbing into retinas that felt gritty, desiccated. The world swam. Bleached tiles, steel cabinets, the outline of a sink. Everything coated in a grey film, like looking through dirty ice. I looked down at my hands. They rested on my thighs, clad in the shiny, cheap fabric of the suit. They looked wrong, puffy, waxy, the color of bad putty. My knuckles were swollen knobs. A faint, sickly purple mottled the skin beneath the nails. I tried to wiggle a finger. It trembled, a palsied twitch, then went still, betrayed by my own body. The hunger surged again, sharper, more insistent. It had a direction now. Beyond the heavy door, the bored voice had vanished through. Out there, warmth, life. Get off the slab. Easier thought than done. My legs were logs, dead weight. I swung them, a grotesque parody of movement, using the momentum of my upper body. They thudded against the steel edge, then dangled. I pushed with my traitorous hands, scraping uselessly against the polished metal. Gravity took over. I slid, crumpling onto the tile floor, with a heavy, wet thump that echoed in the sterile silence. The impact jolted through me. No pain, just a jarring realignment of stiff parts. I lay there, a discarded mannequin in a funeral suit, cheek pressed to the freezing tile. The smell of disinfectant and decay was stronger down here. My decay. The hunger wouldn't let me rest. It gnawed, a constant corrosive pressure. Up and out. Getting to my knees was an epic struggle. Pushing up with hands that barely worked, legs that buckled and threatened to fold the wrong way. I finally managed it, swaying on all fours like a newborn calf made of gristle and frost. The world tilted nauseatingly. I focused on the door, the handle, shiny steel. Out. I crawled, dragging useless legs, hauling myself forward with arms that screamed in silent protest with each lurch. My progress was agonizingly slow, punctuated by the soft thump of my body dragging across the floor, the rasp of my suit catching on tile seams. A trail of faint, greasy smears followed me. The residue of whatever unholy process was keeping this ruin animated. Reaching the door felt like scaling a mountain. I slumped against it, the cold metal seeping into my paper-clad shoulder. The handle, it was high, too high for crawling. Stand. The thought was ludicrous, impossible. The hunger roared its agreement. Stand. I scrabbled, clawing at the smooth door, finding no purchase. My legs refused to unlock. I pushed with everything left, a desperate, silent scream trapped in a frozen throat. Muscles tore, ligaments snapped with audible pops inside me. Agony, sharp and bright this time, flared in my knees, my hips. But I rose. Not upright, hunched, swaying violently, clinging to the door handle like a shipwreck survivor to driftwood. My spine was a bent crowbar. My head lolled. The handle turned easily under my clumsy grip. Too easily. Unlocked. The door swung open onto a dim hallway. Linoleum floor. More closed doors. The smell of antiseptic warred with something else. Coffee. And underneath it, threading through the cold sterility like smoke, the scent of life. Warm blood. Exertion. Soap. Clothes. The hunger became a physical force, a riptide pulling me forward. I shuffled into the hallway, my ruined legs scraping, my feet barely lifting. Movement was a grotesque, stiff-legged shamble. Each step sent jolts of grinding agony through my hips, but the hunger drowned it out. It focused me. Forward. Find the warmth. A sound. Up ahead, a door opening, light spilling onto the linoleum. A figure stepped out silhouetted, a man in pale green scrubs, holding a steaming mug. He stretched, yawned, turned, and saw me. His mug hit the floor, porcelain shattered. Coffee bloomed like blood on the pale linoleum. His mouth opened in a silent "oh" of disbelief, then terror. The scent hit me like a physical blow. Fresh sweat, adrenaline sourness, the hot, coppery tang of living blood just beneath his skin. The hunger exploded. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't a choice. It was a biological imperative, a ravenous reflex overriding the last shreds of whatever I used to be. A sound tore from my ruined throat. Not a growl, not a moan. A wet, guttural rasp, like stones grinding in a clogged drain. I lunged, not fast, not graceful. A collapsing tower of decaying meat propelled by ravenous need. My stiff legs buckled, but the momentum carried me forward. My arms, dead weights moments before, swung out, fingers curled into stiff claws. He screamed, a high, ragged sound of pure animal fear. He stumbled back, scrambling, slipping in the spilled coffee, too slow. My clawing hand caught the fabric of his scrub top. It ripped. My momentum slammed us both against the wall. The impact rattled my teeth, loosened something in my chest. His face was inches from mine, eyes wide, whites showing all around, pupils dilated black with terror. His breath puffed against my frozen cheek, warm, humid, alive. The scent of his fear, his heat, was intoxicating, maddening. The hunger focused to a single razor-sharp point, his throat. The pulse hammering there, visible, frantic. Life in its purest, hottest form. I opened my mouth. My jaw creaked, stiff, unhinging further than it should. My tongue, thick and dry as old leather, rasped against desiccated gums. My teeth, I felt them, suddenly sharp, urgent. Not tools, weapons. Fangs forged by the void inside. I struck, not with speed, but with the terrible, inevitable force of gravity. My head snapped forward. He screamed again, a raw, tearing sound cut short. My teeth met resistance, fabric, skin, then warmth. Incredible, vital warmth. And the taste, copper, salt, life itself flooding the arid desert of my mouth. The hunger, the terrible, screaming void. Sighed. Not satisfaction, not pleasure, cessation. A temporary silencing of the howling wind. The cold retreated just a fraction, replaced by the stolen heat spreading through my frozen core. The struggle ceased. His body went limp beneath me, a sack of cooling meat. I stayed there, slumped over him, feeding. The world narrowed to the rhythmic pull of sustenance, the fading warmth, the coppery tang. The cold crept back in at the edges, patient, inevitable. The hunger, momentarily silenced, was already a low, insistent thrum again in the hollow where my soul used to be. It would be back, stronger. But for now, stillness, just the sound of feeding, and the creeping frost reclaiming the edges of my stolen warmth. The only victory was survival, measured mouthful by terrible mouthful. The dead don't dream of feasts. They only know the cold and the hunger, and the next source of fleeting warmth. I raised my head, blood dripping from my chin onto the pale green scrub. Down the hall, another door clicked open. Another scent of life, fresh and terrified, hit the air. The hunger stirred, a sleeping serpent coiling. The shuffle began again. Gardenias and whiskey. The mist tasted like forgotten flowers and damp stone. It curled around my ankles as I walked the cobbled path bordering St. Bartholomew's Cemetery, the gas lamps casting long dancing shadows. My heels, impractical, bone-white stilettos, clicked a precise hypnotic rhythm on the wet stones. Not too fast, not too slow. A measured cadence designed to catch an ear, to draw an eye. He was leaning against the iron fence, young Mr. Alistair Finch, late 20s perhaps, sharp suit, rumpled now, hair artfully dishevelled by the night air, and no doubt a few too many whiskies at the Gilded Owl. He watched the mist swirl over the graves, a melancholic poet in his own mind, easy prey. The hunger in my hollow core was a low, insistent thrum, but I kept it caged behind a smile as I approached. Lovely night for ghosts, isn't it? My voice was a low contralto, smooth as poured velvet, carrying just enough over the sighing wind. It startled him. Good. He turned, eyes widening slightly, taking me in. The vintage black lace dress clinging to curves that hadn't softened, not yet. The cascade of dark hair that felt like silk, even if it was slightly dusty. The face, pale as the moon above. Lips painted a shade dangerously close to arterial spray. Yes. Rather atmospheric, he managed, recovering with a charming, slightly tipsy smile. Didn't expect company amongst the headstones. The quiet is intoxicating, don't you think? I stepped closer, letting the scent I dabbed on, gardenias and something darker, earthier, drift towards him. Beneath the perfume, the damp wool of his coat, the whiskey on his breath, I could smell him. The warm, coppery tang of life beneath his skin, the steady, tempting thump of his heart. My own remained stubbornly silent in my chest. Alistair Finch, isn't it? I saw you at the gallery opening last week. Your critique of the abstract expressionist was passionate. His eyebrows shot up, flattered, intrigued. You remember that? I rather thought I'd made a fool of myself. Passion is never foolish, I murmured, letting my gaze linger on his. My eyes, I knew, were unnaturally dark in this light, like deep, still pools. Merely intense, like this place. I gestured towards the cemetery gates, slightly ajar. Care for a walk amongst the angels? It's far more interesting than the street. A flicker of hesitation. Sensible boy. But the whiskey, the late hour, the unexpected attention from a woman who looked like she'd stepped from a film noir. They conspired against sense. The hunger hummed, a vibration I felt in my brittle bones. Bit macabre for a stroll, isn't it? He chuckled, but he was already pushing off the fence, falling into step beside me as I drifted towards the open gate. His warmth radiated against the chill clinging to my skin. Life is macabre, Mr. Finch, I said softly, leading him down the central avenue. Our footsteps echoed, his solid, alive, mine a lighter, almost soundless click. Death is merely the punctuation. Doesn't the silence here speak volumes? I gestured to the leaning headstones, the weeping angels slick with condensation. All these stories ended, all that potential, consumed. The word hung in the air, ripe. He shivered, not entirely from the cold. You have a unique perspective. I find endings fascinating, I confessed, stopping beside a large, ornate mausoleum, its marble doors slightly eroded by time. Ivy clawed at its sides, the perfect stage. Moonlight bathed the clearing. I turned to face him, leaning back against the cold stone. The hunger was a sharp ache now, a hollow yearning that made my fingers twitch. I kept them still. The finality, the release. I tilted my head, letting the moonlight catch the sharp line of my jaw, the unnatural pallor that could be mistaken for aristocratic delicacy. Don't you ever crave something definitive? An end to the mundane? His gaze was fixed on me, a mixture of intoxication and burgeoning unease. The sensible part was waking up, smelling not just gardenias and earth, but something else, something wrong. I suppose, sometimes, he murmured, taking a half step back. The warmth retreated slightly. Unacceptable. Sometimes isn't enough, I breathed, pushing off the mausoleum, closing the distance he'd created. My movement was fluid, too fluid, unnervingly graceful. I reached up, not to touch him, but to gently trace the air near his temple, where a pulse throbbed invitingly beneath the skin. My fingers were icy. He flinched. Life thrums so fiercely in you, Alistair, like a trapped bird. Doesn't it ever feel exhausting? Wouldn't peace be sweet? The unease solidified into fear. He saw it now. The utter stillness where breath should mist the air. The depthless black of my eyes that held no reflection of the moonlight. The scent beneath the perfume, not just earth but loam and something faintly rancid, like meat left too long in a damp cellar. "Who? What are you?" he whispered, voice cracking. The mask slipped, just a fraction, enough to show the porcelain perfection wasn't skin, but something harder, colder. A smile touched my lips, revealing teeth that seemed just a shade too white, too sharp in the moonlight. "Peace, Alistair," I whispered, my voice dropping to a dry rasp, the velvet gone. "I offer peace." He tried to bolt, pure animal instinct, but the whiskey slowed him, and I was there, not fast in a blur, but impossibly present, blocking his path. My hand shot out not with clawed fury, but with chilling precision. Cold, strong fingers closed around his upper arm. The grip was iron, unyielding. He gasped, more from the shocking, unnatural cold than the pressure. It seared through his jacket, biting deep. "No," he struggled, panic lending him strength, but it was like fighting a marble statue. My other hand rose, not to strike but to cradle his jaw. My thumb brushed his lower lip. The warmth of it was agony and ecstasy. The hunger roared, a silent tempest breaking its chains. "Shh," I hissed, the sound like dry leaves skittering on stone. My face was inches from his. He could see the fine cracks, like crazed porcelain, near my hairline. He could smell the grave earth, the decay, overpowering the perfume now. No more struggle, just stillness. Terror contorted his face. He opened his mouth to scream. That's when I moved. Not a lunge, an embrace. I pulled him close, my arms wrapping around him with shocking strength, pinning his arms to his sides, my face buried in the warm hollow of his neck. He felt the icy press of my cheek, the impossible cold radiating from me. He felt my breath, or the absence of it, against his skin. Then he felt the pressure, not teeth ripping, not yet. A cold, wet press against his jugular, like a lover's kiss gone terribly wrong. Then the sharpness, a precise, agonizing puncture. Not savage, but efficient, clinical almost. The scream died in his throat, choked off by shock and the sudden, shocking pull. It wasn't pain at first, not exactly. It was a profound draining, a terrifying suction, a vital warmth being siphoned away with terrifying speed. His struggles weakened, became feeble twitches. His warmth flooded my desiccated core, a river of life pouring into a desert. The gnawing void inside me sighed, momentarily sated, humming with stolen vitality. The cold retreated inside me, replaced by a fleeting false flush. His heartbeat, frantic against my silent chest, slowed, stuttered, stopped. I held him as his warmth faded, as the delicious thrum of his life ebbed away. His weight slumped against me, heavy, empty. The hunger, momentarily quieted, was already a low growl again, anticipating the next course. But for now, there was this, the quiet of the graveyard, the taste of copper and salt on my cold, dead tongue, the weight of the offering in my arms. Gently, almost reverently, I lowered Alistair Finch onto the damp grass beside the mausoleum. I straightened his rumpled collar, brushed a stray lock of hair from his cooling forehead. Moonlight washed over his pale, slack face, peaceful in a way, definitive. I knelt beside him in the wet grass, the lace of my dress soaking through, unnoticed. The hunger focused again, sharp and precise. The initial rush was sustenance, but the body held deeper nourishment. The marrow, the tender muscle, the quiet work of consumption. My lips, still stained the color of a fatal bloom, parted. The feast, silent and thorough, began beneath the weeping angels and the watchful, indifferent moon. The only sound was the soft, wet tearing in the stillness and the distant sigh of the wind through the yew trees. Another story ended. Another potential consumed. The cemetery kept its secrets, and the hunger, for a little while, slept.